Say when, Wyatt. Why, Wyatt? Whatever do you mean? We're good? All right, well, welcome back to another Bennett Breakdown. Excited to always come on here, and I'm excited to have my friend Andy Rankin.
Thank you for having me.
I'm glad you came.
Appreciate it.
If you'd have told me no, I'd have made you come anyway. But I think you guys are going to love this guy. I remember the first time we ever worked together. I came home, and I was so excited about Andy. I'm like, oh, honey, I love him so much. She's like, is this a bromance? I said, I think so. But, man, I think you guys are going to, I really don't have no game plan today. But me and Andy, first of all, tell us about yourself.
Like the abbreviated, or
Yeah.
like you want the
abbreviated? We'll get into the long story maybe here in a second, but
Okay, so we came to Amarillo. My wife Taylor got into vet school, and we came here so that she could attend Texas Tech vet school, and that's kind of how we fell into the church and met you. Kind of went from there.
2 kids.
2 kids.
Yep.
It was 2 under 2, but Tuesday the oldest one turned 2.
Come on, it was Tuesday.
Yep.
All right, we got CR, Canyon, and Little McLean. They're cute. Parents definitely marked them well. But me and Andy, we've shod, a ton of horses together, and spent a lot of time in the pickup. So I believe today will just be like old times of being bent over, but just having a conversation. Usually we're doing something.
This time we won't be out of breath.
Yeah, exactly. No doubt. But tomorrow's coming. We plan on doing a bunch tomorrow. But anyway, I got to say this, that you're the first person that I've done a podcast with that hasn't asked me what's the topic. So you were just going to come off the cuff, huh?
Oh, we'll roll with it.
We'll roll with it. I love it. I mean, most people are like, what are we going to talk about? What about this? And I said, well, that's what a podcast is just having open conversation.
Well, I don't get a teleprompter?
No teleprompter, no.
That's okay.
So I think this is a road. I've always been intrigued by your story. And I definitely want to go down that lane. But first of all, one of the things that I want to talk about, because there's lots of you. I see discipline. Obviously, you're not perfect in any way. Just like me, I'm not perfect. But there's some things and there's some characteristic traits about you that I love. It's just like, I always think about this. I could look like Michael Jordan. Like you could put me, that's on the shoe where he's all stretched out. I remember the game when he was playing for the Bulls, gave them 5 national championships. And you could paint me black, and AI could make me 6'6", and I could look like that, but I couldn't do all of those things because there's things that Michael Jordan. We got singers and basketball players mixed up here.
That's all right. We'll listen to some Michael Jackson tomorrow.
No, that's also what I love about him is he's an old soul like me. He likes the old stuff, the good stuff, music when it was music, right? Did I say Michael Jackson the first time?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Michael Jordan, especially with AI, you can make me look like all those things, but I couldn't do those things unless I did the things that he did when nobody else was looking. And there's some things about you that I love, that the discipline that you have in your life. So, with that all being said, and this economy of where it's at, what made you vote for Biden the first time, and why does he have you for a second time? No, I'm kidding. No, we're not. We're going to talk about that. That's for a different podcast. No, I want to talk about calling. That's what I want to talk about, because as a pastor, one of the biggest questions that is asked of me, and I probably ask other men of God, and they would probably tell you the same thing. People come up to you and up to me and say this: I want to know what God's calling is for my life. And when I look at my life, I found that I was faithful in the little things, and I found myself in the vein that God has in store for me. And so there's some things about you, and just first of all, let me just ask this question. When you think about a calling, What do you think? Do you think it drops out of the sky? Do you think that you have a burning bush experience, riding on the wall like Daniel? What is it?
I guess I think that God will open doors to reveal that calling to you,
Mm-hmm.
and I think callings come with a lot of work.
Absolutely. One of the things, and I think when those doors open up, what is so important is you give it your best. Like I love it when you tell the story. Tell us the story when the Pinewood Derbies growing up.
So I was raised in a real Christian home.
Mm-hmm.
We did Awanas growing up, and I have 7 siblings, 6 brothers and 1 sister. So she's pretty tough. But we would always do the Pinewood Derby cars through Awanas, and
Is that like Boy Scouts or?
yeah, very similar to the same Boy Scout car. The cars that
Yeah.
roll down the hill and
Mm-hmm.
see who wins. And we had all these Matchbox cars, and so me and my brothers, we'd pick out our Matchbox cars, what we wanted our car to look like. We'd take it to my dad, and my dad's a trim carpenter by trade, very skilled, and so he would sit there and he would draw with a pencil on every car the body lines, and then he would cut it out the rough shape, and he'd have us sand. And I mean, we would sit there and sand for an eternity. And as a little kid, it
How
felt
old
like
are
an
you at this
eternity.
time? 6, 7 years old, 8 years old?
Yeah, probably right there.
Okay,
8,
okay.
9, 8, yeah, 7, 8, 9. So, and we would sand and sand and sand, get them all roughed in, and then we'd take them to my dad, and he'd a little more here, a little more here. He'd step us up in grit, and we'd get smoother and smoother. All right, Dad, I'm done. All right, and we'd take them to him, 3, 4 times. All right, I'm done, and he'd show us what, and then finally, I'm like, this is it. This is it. We're done. Like, I'm taking this in. My dad would look at it. He'd, do you think God would be pleased with this workmanship? And
I love it.
and it was just like, well, maybe I could do a little more.
Uh-huh.
I could sand a little longer.
Why don't you talk to him and see?
Yeah.
And that's how you are. It's still instilled to you to this day. Like,
I like to work hard.
you do like to work hard, but you like things done right.
Yeah.
And whether it be welding, whether it be finishing a foot, whatever it is, I can just see that you are a good steward of what God has given you. I believe this. I believe that each and every one of us have natural abilities, and you have some natural abilities, but then we also have spiritual gifts. 1 Corinthians chapter 12 talks about what those spiritual gifts. And I believe God's called us to walk in all of them. Now, is there some that is our vein, some that are just natural, like the ones before? I believe so. But the third one is acquired skill, things that you learn through, oh gosh, doing it wrong, but doing it right. And so, one of the things that I've always loved about you, like your story, you talked just a little, or your background, your history. There's 8 of you, 8 kids.
Yep.
St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis boy right here. And I love it how you wanted to be a cowboy. And and this guy is not just a drugstore cowboy. He's a cowboy.
I joke around about it, but I say the first time I heard them spurs drag across a wood plank floor, I was done.
Hooked.
I was hooked. I mean,
Jingle jangle music,
that's
man.
that's what I'm gonna do right there.
I love it. I love it. So and that's kind of the vein of where I want to go down, because that being a cowboy was not something that was just falling into your lap. It was something that you had to pursue, that you had to go after, and so I know the story. But I want everybody to hear it, because I think it's so cool. Because it doesn't. If you're told no, that is not the final answer, right? And so, tell us about that. How you obviously grew up. Was it in Boy Scouts? He's an Eagle Scout.
Yep. So we had. So my sister is I have two older brothers and then my sister, and then it goes Andrew, Peter, Ben, and Joe. And so my three little brothers right underneath me, kind of the us four, we ran tight. I mean, thick as thieves.
Yeah.
And got in a lot of trouble.
Stole stuff, set things on fire together.
Definitely set stuff on fire. But we, so my parents put us in Boy Scouts, and you know, present day, the Boy Scouts have a lot of controversy around the organization and whatnot. But for us, our dad was, I mean, my dad was involved. I don't remember going to a Boy Scout outing and my dad wasn't there. And so, I mean, that I think made it for us. I mean, it was an awesome organization. It was an awesome time. We had a blast. So,
And to be an Eagle Scout is no slouch, is it? And you're not the only one. You have brothers that are too, right?
yeah, all four of us.
Oh, well.
So me and
Rub our nose in
the
it.
three little, yeah. It's just like that. I mean, I don't know.
But you
Like
learn
now
how
I
to
call
do-
it the Rankin mentality. Like we're me and all my brothers. I mean, if I want to do something right the first time, I call and consult one of them. Hey, I'm going to do this or I'm doing that. Like buy once, cry once.
And this is what I love about even the way you parent. I mean, all of it. You are not a millennial whatsoever. Like, you guys figure it out, take the bull by the horns. I love it. So, anyways, going on.
So the other day, Canyon fell, and I went over to her, and I don't know, maybe not long after she started learning how to walk, we decided we're not going to scoop her up and save her. So she fell, and I went back to her, and I reached down, and I said, hey, you want some help? And she kind of like was whimpering, and she stood up. No, I'm tough.
That's right. That's a Rankin mentality right
So-
there.
So, but anyway, so Boy Scouts, we went, my parents saved up, and I went in 2007. Me and my dad and my younger brother Peter went to Philmont Scout Ranch in New Mexico.
How old
and
were you at the time?
14.
14.
14 years old. And
I was married 2 years. That doesn't make me feel old.
so, yeah, 2007, I would have been, 14. Went to Philmont. We hiked, I think it was in the 70 or 80 miles in 10 days. Backcountry. The way the ranch is set up, there's different camps. They have different program, like Indian lure, Western horse rides. There's rock climbing. There's, a few different just activity, black powder, shotgun shooting, just different events and different program at each camp. Logging, you got to climb poles and stuff like that. And then you would hike backpack during the day and tent camp. And
It's a big place.
huge, 153,000 miles or 53,000 acres, I believe.
Wow.
So
Cimarron, New Mexico.
Cimarron, New Mexico.
Yeah.
So went, loved it, and thought, like, saw all these young people working, and I thought, man, that would be kind of cool.
So is this like the ranch cowboys side or the dude ranch side that was more
This was the dude ranch side.
okay? People
yeah.
saddling horses working inside the barn.
So like the ranch employed college kids that would saddle all the horses in the morning, and then your trek. So you hiking around the ranch, you're scheduled for a horse ride, and those college kids would take you on that horse ride.
Okay. Okay.
So, if you were in a horseback riding camp, there's 3 horseback riding camps. So I loved it, and I was like, man, that's so cool. Western United States. Right around the same time, my parents took us on a West vacation. We rented a like a motorhome, little motorhome, and I mean,
Like one of those that you see RVs. You can 1-800-RENT-RV or whatever.
yeah, I think it had like 1-800 on the side of
Okay.
it, about as tall
Where it has
as
like
I
Mount
am.
Rushmore on
Yes,
some of them and
yes,
things like that.
exactly.
Okay.
That's exactly it. It looked
Okay.
like the cab, and then there's like a sleeper over the top of the cab. And so we rent that. We go around Badlands National Park, Devil's Tower, Mount Rushmore, Yellowstone.
America.
Yeah, I mean, did the whole Grand Tetons, did the whole circle,
That's awesome.
and I just fell in love with Western United States. I mean,
Sure.
it was just beautiful. It was fun.
Because it's
And
not like, did you live right in the middle of St. Louis?
no, so we lived in the county. Well, they call it the county,
But still, it's more city.
yeah, I mean, you could get to Walmart in a couple of minutes. I mean, not long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So being out in that big country was kind of appealing to you.
Oh yeah, it was beautiful, and I loved it. I just liked the quiet, and I've always been very independent. So we did that kind of right around the same time, and went back home, lived my life. You know, got into trouble with my brothers, and I started a landscaping company when I was 16, I guess, and a couple of my brothers worked for me, and
You even mowed Joyce Meyer's yard.
that was for a guy that I worked for.
I think it's cool because I love Joyce Meyer.
So, yeah, we did all kinds of, I mean, poured concrete, retaining walls, cut grass, whatever kind of came with landscaping type of work. And so then I was 17, and I think I was already an Eagle Scout, and we were going to go back to Philmont. And this time it was my dad, myself, my little brother Peter, my little brother Ben, and we went on a quite a bit tougher trek that go around. I think it was over 110 maybe miles.
Now, was this
in 10 days?
Was this horseback or on
No,
foot?
this is foot backpacking.
My goodness.
Yeah, and I was kind of the same deal. I was like, man, that was so cool. I'm gonna come back and work once I'm 18 because you had to be 18 to work there.
Mm-hmm.
So I go home, cutting grass, and just like, I mean, that cutting grass deal. I mean, it was, my friends would ask for money to go to the mall, and I was like buying Oakleys and whatever clothes I wanted, and like I worked hard, and they were playing video games, and it just was never my
You're driven.
cup of tea.
Yeah.
But so I turned 18. I applied to Philmont, and I don't know nothing. I mean, I've maybe touched a horse 3 times in my life at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned 18 in October.
But that's what made you want to go back, is seeing all them people work there, big country.
There was one. So like when you're backpacking and you're like hiking and driving in the mountains, you'll have switchbacks that go up the hill, so that way you can. So you'll have switchbacks that go up the hill so that you can, like, it's too steep to go straight up. So you'll have what they call switchbacks, and it just kind of zigzag its way up.
Okay.
And so we were on these switchbacks, and we were hiking up. This was the second time I was at Philmont, and there were these girls that were wranglers, and we'll get into what a wrangler is, but they were wranglers that worked at Philmont, and they were horseback, and I mean, it was raining. They had their dusters on and slickers on, and they
look like the American West.
They come across us on a trail this wide, and these girls just yaw off the hill down. They cut the switchback and hit the trail down below us.
Like Quigley?
I'm like Man from Snowy River.
Let's go.
And I'm like,
how cool was that?
will you marry me?
Yeah, exactly.
So I was sold. You know, I was like, I'm going to come back and do this. But I had never touched a horse. And so I applied for a PC job, program counselor. And so whatever camp had program, the program counselors would take kids to their camp, like show them to their campsite for the night. Once they got to camp, they would teach kids how to rope. They would do a chuck wagon dinner for them in the Western camps. Like in the Indian lure camps, they would teach you how to look for arrowheads, and they'd take you out there, and like there was actually a lot of arrowheads. Mm-hmm. They would the pole climbing. They would teach you how to safely climb those poles. I mean, all the It's just program counselor. You're just working with the kids all
Would
day
they stay
long
in the
as they
dorms
come.
with them, get up with them, that kind of stuff, or just?
No, the Boy Scouts when hiking around on a trek are tent camping.
Oh, okay.
You pack everything with you: your food, your water. I mean, there's water streams that you can get water from and purify, but
Salmonella.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
No, I'm kidding.
a little bit of Giardia to go with it.
There you go. Absolutely.
So
I've had diarrhea since Easter's.
so there's so that position or that job was just like you live in a bunkhouse with all these other people and you help the kids once they get to camp. Keep them organized, keep them out of trouble, put on a little bit of program for them. Every camp has a show at night, play guitar, sing, stomp your feet, get the kids involved. It was a blast. Like, it was just 18 years old, fresh out of the home.
Yeah.
And
that's a whole new world,
just
too.
having a blast. And the place is strict, no illegal drugs, no drinking on ranch property, things of that nature. And so, like, it was a wholesome fun.
No extortion, racketeering.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It wasn't like I wasn't driving to my job or I was living in a bunkhouse right there.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't it didn't cost nothing, it didn't pay nothing, but it was a blast. And so I got a job.
Experience.
Yeah, I got a job being a PC in a western camp called Poneal. And so I went to Philmont the summer that I was 18, would have been 2011. So I went on a trek in 7, a trek in 10, and I worked there the summer of 11. And at the end of that summer, I went down to the ranch boss, the ranch office. And
Real cowboys.
yeah, like career cowboys, like
make a hand.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I asked them, I said, hey, I really want to be a wrangler next year. So the wranglers give the dude rides. They saddle all the horses and they feed and saddle all the horses in the morning. And some of these horses are wicked, like pretty rough. Not buck. I mean, they're gentle for the kids, but like you can't catch them. You got to hem them
Spoiled.
up, kick,
Yeah.
terrible to shoot. So I saw this western side of things. I went down there and I worked and I helped the barn quite a bit as a PC. And they said, well, you don't really have any experience. Like, you don't know what side of the saddle goes forward and what side of the saddle goes backwards. And they weren't wrong.
Like, if you had haltered horses or anything at this time?
Just the help that I had done with
Okay.
them through the summer, really.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of like tangible experience, like I'd
No.
been to friends' houses that had horses, but you give me a halter, I would not have known how to put it on at the beginning of the summer.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so I was like, I can back up a trailer, I can drive a truck. And they were like, well, if you don't know horses and cows, like I don't think we have a job for you.
Which
And
you
I-
get now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
the cost of entry is steep. Like, you can't just walk into a ranch and be like,
100%.
I got these boots at Cavender's, put me to work. Like, I mean, some people will put you to work, but it's going to take you, 3, 4, 5 years of just
Like
grinding.
I was talking about, you have to have some acquired skills.
Right.
Of you don't just fall into that.
Right. So I turned around and I was like, taking the defeat. And I walk out the door.
Shame.
I walk out the door and there's a guy there shoeing a horse right outside the office. And I thought,
Had you ever seen that before?
so I hadn't seen it done before, but I had seen like I had seen in my research, because everybody, I'm 18. Everybody's like, well, are you going to go to college? So I'm looking into opportunities. Well, can I go to school to learn how to cowboy? And the answer is no. But I did see when researching that there's horseshoeing schools. So I turned around and I was like, hey, just quick question. If I can shoe a horse really, really good, like better than anybody else here, would you hire me then? And they were like, yeah, if you can shoe a horse, you've got a job. We'll hire you.
They're looking for some guys.
And so
They
I was
didn't
like,
tell you that they're fire-breathing dragons either, did they?
no. And I was like, all right, cool. So I left, and that fall I went back to the landscaping gig. My dad and my brothers were running it while I was gone, and went back to the landscaping gig and saved up enough money that I went to horseshoeing school that spring in Missouri. And
6-week course?
6 week, 4 or 6, I can't remember.
Okay.
Something like that. Full hot shoeing, horseshoeing class.
Long enough to know not what you're doing.
Right. I probably
right.
I probably got under maybe 24 horses.
Oh my gosh.
And I probably on average only did 1 foot on those 24 horses.
That's even better.
So
oh man.
So it was
what'd your card read? We'll do 1 foot per day.
Yeah. And I'm a tall guy, and so I was like dying. My instructors, hey, you got to get low. You've got to bend your knees. You've got to do. And I haven't done this, so I didn't know like how I could manipulate my body or the horse's body to work together and achieve the task at hand. And so I was just like,
were you sore?
Oh boy.
Oh.
I mean, I thought I was tough. I was tan and
which
I can cut grass all day long with no shirt on and look good. But I'm out there
looking like Brad Pitt. Don't help you in that.
I'm trying to, and my dad's a carpenter. We remodeled 2 homes growing up as a family. And so I'm like, I can swing a hammer. I can, whatever. And then you're like upside down underneath a 1,200-pound fire-breathing dragon trying to drive a nail literally into his foot
in the beginning.
And so it was tough. Like I was like,
at night you wanted a 6-pack and some Vicodin.
I enjoyed the at that age I didn't know what that was.
I remember though those days, like, my butt cheeks just screaming, your back, everything. It's so
For
awkward.
me, it was my legs. That instructor drilled it like you need to squat. You can't. If you bend at your back, you'll ruin yourself.
And it's so weird.
You need to squat and like, you're under that horse just like quivering.
Just
like
shaking.
Yeah. Like, but I could really appreciate the craftsmanship. Like my instructor was bad to the bone, and like he could do like a full crease, like handmade shoe, 1 heat. Like this dude was legit.
Magician.
And I could really appreciate that level of craftsmanship.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And that just makes you like, man, one day I'll get there. But it's like Michael Jordan. There's a lot of days in the dark that you're going to have to do some practicing.
Yeah, a lot of work. So I got out of shoeing school, and I think I went home for maybe a week or 2, and then I went to Philmont.
You're focused.
And I went
You're
to Philmont.
You're going to be a cowboy.
And that started beginning of May. They bring the Wranglers beginning of May, and I worked there
all summer.
Yep, all summer as a Wrangler. And so the Wranglers take out the rides, the horseback rides, and then what they call a horseman runs the camps. So there's 3 camps. So there's a horseman at each camp, there's a horseman at base camp, there's a horseman on each cavalcade. So cavalcade is a pack trip. They also take out pack trips. So you can go to, as a Boy Scout, you can go to Philmont on a couple different levels. I went as a participant. I went as just a normal 10-day trek. They have 7-day treks. They have 14-day treks. They have 21-day treks, and they have the cavalcades, which is a horseback pack trip.
How long is that?
I think they're 7 days.
7 days.
7 days. I think 5 days on the trail.
And you sleep out there and everything?
Yeah.
It's like
the
naked
horses
and afraid.
The horses pack it all, but with clothes.
With clothes. And they have like 150 mules there, don't they? Or
about
donkeys?
150, burros. Yeah.
So do you when you go up there, you pack with pack horses too?
Pack horses.
Okay.
Just pack horses.
Okay.
The burros, so I got a burro on, I think, my second trek. The burros, you'll just take from one camp to another camp when you're on a regular trek. So as a participant, I took a burro.
Oh, cool.
And it'll just help you carry some of your, and by the time you get 10 dudes handing off one pot, it really makes no difference, but it's about the experience of fighting a donkey,
Yeah.
So,
John name him Barack?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't recall we did.
That's what I like to name every donkey. And you're still green.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Were you going? I mean, were you trimming like down to coffin bone fluid at this time,
No,
which is
no,
blood,
no.
or driving hot nails,
Like
or
these horses are turned out all winter, so it was
Okay.
pretty easy. Like you pick up the foot and like I just hit that shelf with nippers, and I'd try and get it as flat as I could.
Yeah.
And I'd go and like I was a decently sized dude, and so like some of these other wranglers are small girls. They can't hit this shoe on an anvil and move it and manipulate it in the way they want to. So, I would like go to the anvil. I would shape everyone else's shoe. They'd tell me what they needed done, and then I'd shape mine and go back to my horse. And it would, I mean, yeah, it was rough shoeing. It was not customer worthy by any means.
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
it kept them sound.
Yeah.
So
And they probably don't care as long as they stay on, right?
right,
Give me a 6 city head and
because these other kids, these other wranglers, they don't know
drive
nothing.
it deep.
They hook up with a horseman.
Mm-hmm.
A horseman is usually a second or a third year that's already been there a couple summers, and so that horseman will kind of take over and show them a thing or two, and then the wranglers go at it. Just drive that nail until you find some blood. Or,
Yeah,
I mean,
deep
lots
and
of
wide.
stitches, lots of all kinds of stuff happens that week.
Gosh,
So, yeah,
that's good. So you're navigating through that
yeah,
for sure. Because I mean, in 4 weeks of shoeing school, you're not gonna, or 6 weeks, 3 months. Still, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, people don't get that. I mean, it's definitely. I apprenticed for nearly 3 years, and still, when I went out, I mean, there was some times where I would just get in a jam because you don't. I mean, still to this day, I see things that I've never seen before.
right.
And so, man, I mean, the perspective that I'm coming at is like, wow, that's crazy. So, you're there shoeing horses. Have you done any type cowboy type work, or? I
No,
mean, I know you. At
I mean,
this
like,
time,
so-
you been on some horses?
So
Like,
yeah, so the horses are turned out at night. So like we'll go gather them from pastures and run these horses into base camp like it was Western. Like you're running them down the road.
did you love that?
Oh yeah. Oh man, it was like
Yeah.
yeah, it was a blast.
Mm-hmm.
There was one morning, we were gathering this pasture and
Would
the
you wear like a
pivots-
badge and 245 long colts?
No,
Okay, all right. I was just wondering.
but definitely a vest.
Exactly.
And if you don't wear your spurs to town, you're not a real wrangler.
100%.
So we would take and gather these horses from around this pivot, and now this pivot's high fence, but at the time it wasn't. And I thought, oh, there's some horses way back over here, and I kind of get over there to them, and there were some other riders on the other side. Well, next thing we know, we've got this herd of horses and a herd of elk
Awesome.
all right here, like right here, and the elk spill, and we've got the horses. We take.
You've
them
never
on
seen
in.
that in St. Louis.
No,
That's what you're saying.
no.
That's awesome.
So I worked the summer as a wrangler. Went around on some cavalcades, went on some pack trips. I worked at base camp quite a bit. Got to be really good friends with a guy named Rick Olson, and he'll come into play later. But we'd run around together and hang out. At the end of the summer, my truck was broke down, and
So at this time, because you told him, you said, hey, if I learn how to shoe horses, can I come back and be a wrangler? And they told, oh, yeah, you'll come back. But that's a wrangler. At this point, are you wanting to be like a cowboy?
yeah,
Like,
I'm looking for a job.
okay.
Like I don't have a job at the end of the summer,
Okay.
other
so
than
it's
going
still,
home and cutting grass, and I did not want to go cut grass.
Oh, I got you.
So I'm looking for
you know it's going to be
Ranch
over
World
when everybody
ads.
goes back to school.
Ranch World ads. That's a good spot.
So that's where you put in. So how do you put in an application if you've never worked cattle? You really still don't know much about horses.
So my truck was broke down at the end of the summer. I had nowhere to go. 3 days from the end of my contract, I had applied for a fall contract to be a wrangler in the fall, and they chose other employees, other wranglers. And I went to our boss, Bob Rickliffs, and I gave him the situation. I said, the part is on order. If I could stay in the bunkhouse for a couple extra days, maybe a week, I'll pay for it if I need to until I can get my truck fixed, and I'll go home. And he said, yeah, that's fine. And then the next morning he offered me, he said, hey, I got you a job. If you want to, you can help fence crew. And we'll...
At the Philmont?
Yeah. He said, we'll put you on fence crew through, I think it was through Thanksgiving, or maybe I went home right after Thanksgiving, I think is what it was.
Okay.
So,
do you like that?
yeah, I mean,
You've done that, though, right? Yeah, I mean, you've done...
No, not really.
Not
I mean,
that kind of
it was hard
fencing.
work, but I had, I mean, I didn't know nothing about the physics of how to build a strong barbed wire fence. So they taught me all that.
To keep stuff out.
Yeah, yeah. How to repair it. I got to hike a lot. I found a lot of elk horns. Those guys I worked with were, they wanted to drive everywhere. And so I was like, man, drop me off. You know, I'll hike that fence. I'll walk that fence. So I did the fall fence crew. That was pretty uneventful. And then I went home.
Your application was up.
So then I go home at the end of November, beginning of December that year. I spend the month of December. So that fall I was applying for jobs, Ranch World ads. And I found this place.
So what was your ad?
No, I didn't post an ad. I was looking at ads.
Oh, you was looking at ads.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying.
There were guys on there that were posting ads, but I was I knew enough at this point. I didn't want to be that gunsel that's like, I'm from St. Louis and I've worked one summer.
Woody from Toy Story.
I've worked one summer with horses and
yeah.
So but I was confident.
I got Andy on my boot.
Yeah, exactly. But I was confident that with my work ethic, my
100%,
my dad's the carpentry, the construction background, the landscape, all
Eagle
the
Scout.
Equipment operate, skid steers, Eagle Scout, backing up trailers, and the little bit I did know about livestock, horses and cows, I could land a job somewhere. Mm-hmm. Somebody would need a shovel hand,
something.
and so I applied for this place in Montana called the IX Ranch, and they called me. And they told me that they were deciding between me and one other guy. I go home. I'm home for a couple of weeks. I was helping my brother, my older brother. He at the time was buying houses and flipping them, and so I was working a little bit with him. The landscaping deal wasn't in December. Not much going on.
Raking leaves.
And I got a phone call from Todd at the IX, and he said, hey, I've got a job for you. He said, but you need to bring your own saddle and you need to bring all your own horseshoeing tools. So at horseshoeing school, they provided all the tools. I think I had a knife and a rasp.
What'd you use at Philmont?
Their tools. They had all their own tools.
Oh, you didn't have nothing.
Yeah. I
mean,
you didn't
have
some high class diamond.
Oh, dear God in heaven.
Yeah. So Diamond is a horseshoeing brand for folks that don't know.
That is really good.
Yeah.
That's like
if you're gonna trim your horse as a
that's like
a pro ho, as a professional homeowner, if you're gonna trim your horse every 8 weeks, Diamond is the brand to buy.
Yeah.
But if you want to make
with the orange handles,
yes. If you want to make any money, you stay away from Diamond.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like buying sneakers at.
You're going to go home sore enough. You
Payless Cashways.
Yeah.
They're going to have a hole in them. They're going to be cheap. They're going to be great. That's all you can have. That's all you can have. But if you're going to make a profession,
right,
you're going to have to get you some New Balance or something else.
Exactly. So so he said, you're going to need horseshoeing tools. You're going to need a saddle. You're going to need a piece of headgear,
So now you're stepping off into territory. Like you put on saddles, but you've never bought one.
Right.
So you don't know what's good.
I mean, I've always kind of been a gear guy, tools, even in the landscaping stuff. Like I mean, just a little bit of wrenching and I knew what Snap-on and Matco and I knew, so just looking at saddles, like I knew I didn't want to buy junk. And so I would ask guys like, well, what saddle is that? Because I could tell this one looks like, some girl's going to go chase some cans in it. And this one looks like a guy could rope something, it was sure enough, it was there. And so I thought, he told me I had the job. I just had to bring all my own saddle, gear, and horseshoeing tools.
Gear, like headgear?
Yeah, like a bridle,
Okay.
a pad, a saddle, and all my own shoeing tools. Because he told me he wanted to hire me, and the way he sold it to the board or sold it to the rest of the crew was that I could shoe. The other guy had a lot more experience, but I could shoe. So he said, I need you to bring shoeing stuff.
And probably, because this is in the middle of nowhere, right?
Oh, yeah.
Middle of nowhere, Montana. I mean, just like some places in rural New Mexico, when you show up as a horseshoer, it's like, I mean, thank God you are an answer to prayer. I mean, you don't just get one to do, you get like 10 families. Yeah. And so that's probably the way it was. They were excited for you to come.
Yeah. And this was a pretty big operation. 4,000 mother cows. Gosh. And they would run their steers through the they would keep their steers, run them through the next summer. So about 2,000 yearlings at any given time. So
did you drive your pickup up there?
Nope. So I was broke. I sold my pickup and for $4,000. I got my wisdom teeth pulled, and I was asking like $6,000, and I got my wisdom teeth pulled, and this guy wanted to meet me, and he offered me $4,000, and I was like, yeah, I'll take it.
And you were high?
Oh yeah, my brother drove me down there, and
really,
yeah. So I sell the truck for $4,000. I order a saddle. I go buy horseshoeing tools, and I box everything up. I think I shipped 3 big boxes to Montana, and I bought a train ticket.
It's like an Alexander Supertramp story. I love it. He rides the train.
So I leave St. Louis and ride the Amtrak to
American Tail,
Chicago, and then in Chicago I change trains and go through like Minnesota, and then the High Line.
I've never been on a train.
Oh, we rode a train, I think both times going to Philmont. So I had traveled on a train a couple times already. I think I might have even gone out there my first summer on a train when I worked out at Philmont because my brothers needed my truck to run the landscaping deal.
They have a train that goes to, I did know this, to Raton.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Because I've seen it. Because the ranch, Optimo Ranch, we could see a passenger one. I'd always wave at them, like
oh yeah
going by. But we were always old fashioned. We flew. No,
old fashioned.
Just kidding. No, So, anyways,
So my first day of work was January 3rd. No, yeah, January 3rd.
So did it go
2000 and?
Because I do know this in the natural that this place is out in the middle of nowhere. So did this guy just come pick you up from the train station?
No.
This is like Tombstone, Wide Earp.
So I got a train ticket to Havre, which was the closest Walmart. It was about 45 minutes away, about an hour away, and then got a ride from there. And into the ranch. I didn't have transportation my whole first year. It paid $700 a month, and they gave me a bunkhouse.
Obviously fed, you had to have.
Bunkhouse and a cookhouse, yeah. So they had a full-time cook, and we'd go to her house, and the whole crew would. I mean, even the boss, even the owners would go to her house for breakfast and lunch, and then just the cowboys would go for dinner.
Oh, my gosh.
And
how far from the nearest town?
Big Sandy was about 5 miles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where it had all,
but we're talking like my boss's kids were like the basketball team. Like, I mean, there was like 5 kids on the basketball team, kind of a small town. Like,
it was little. It had an Allsips.
Yeah. There was one gas station that didn't have a convenience store, just pumps. And then there was a little mechanic shop. He would like fix flats. And then a small grocery store and 2 bars.
Oh, that's real good for rural cowboys out in the middle of nowhere.
Couple of churches, couple of, I mean, really, that's it. They didn't have much.
Now I want to ask this because there's a lot of people that's going to be on here. Did y'all have a train station?
No. not in the way you're talking about it.
You know, because most people are like, this is like a Yellowstone story. He's the real deal. No, I'm just kidding.
No, not like that.
All right. Well, that's good. Tell us this. So you go from St. Louis, which it gets cold in St. Louis.
Yeah.
I mean, like Amarillo,
Single
right?
digits, yeah.
How cold did it get in Montana?
The coldest that I saw, actual temperature, was negative 54.
Oh, my word.
Yeah. It's like at negative
I'm out.
25, negative 30, you'll walk outside and it looks like it's snowing, but it's just so cold that the humidity in the air is freezing and falling to the ground as ice particles.
My goodness.
And it's like anything below zero, I think, maybe 10 below, somewhere right there, is you walk outside and you're going from, your house is at 70 and you're going to negative 10.
Mm-hmm.
That's an 80-degree jump like in a minute. And so it's like, it'll take your breath away. You'll be like, it takes you a
That's
minute
what I
to
was going to ask.
catch your breath.
Can you breathe through your mouth? I think it frees you up. Or is it better to breathe through your nose? I mean, I'm sure you can do both, but when you first go out, does it hurt to breathe in through your mouth, or is your nose hurt?
It hurts to exert yourself.
Okay.
So to breathe quickly, that air doesn't have time to warm before it gets to your lungs, and that'll hurt.
It's like eating a handful of icebreakers and then drinking a cold glass of water. Like crystallizes. You know that feeling what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So you breathe that air in so fast. If you're breathing it in really fast, it doesn't have time to warm as it goes to your lungs. And so it'll actually start to and you had to pay attention to this. If it was below, negative 10, negative 20, you couldn't run your horse or get your horse real hot or sweaty. It would, you could drown him. Cold air would.
I never thought of that.
What's the word? Condensate in their lungs, and that you could drown a horse working them too hard in cold like that.
So,
but we're still horseback. I mean, you wear pack boots, you wear a lot of wool, you wear down. I'm gonna kind of cruise through this because it was a lot of work.
So this is where you start learning really to be a cowboy.
They worked my butt off.
Okay.
For 700, I mean, it was like paid slavery. We were outside at 5 every morning. You didn't get off work until 5. You got an hour for lunch. In the summertime, I mean, we put up a ton of hay. So I kind of specialized for them. I did all their horseshoeing, and I shouldn't say all. I did the majority of their horseshoeing. Another guy, Marlon, he grew up Amish, and he knew how to shoe, and he did quite a bit as well. And then I did a lot of welding for them. Repairs, built a trailer. One winter I built a bunch of 24-foot long, 10-foot tall windbreaks that broke down as panels. And you could put them together almost like livestock panels, but they were windbreaks. So you could move them out of the way, clean the ground, because you got to bed bulls. If it's below zero, you're going to bed your bulls almost every night because their testicles will freeze to the ground and they'll be sterile.
I hate it when that happens. Well, that
Me too.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, just I mean, I know you were doing all those
and irrigation. So in the summertime, I ran a lot of their irrigation. 2 big pivots and about 2,500 acres of flood.
Wow.
So I learned a bunch about the business of it.
But you had
how it all works together.
You had to learn about cows and things like that.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
so the first year I calved that first spring I calved.
So that was new to
calf
you.
Heifers.
I mean, you didn't do any of that at the Philmont.
Nothing hardly with cows at Philmont.
Okay.
So that first spring I calved their second calf heifers. They kept them. The way they did things. I mean, they had so many bulls. They didn't necessarily have specific heifer bulls that they turned out on their heifers. So their assist rate on their heifers was really, really high. But they ran an internship program. They had for being in the middle of nowhere, Montana, they had a state-of-the-art facility that they could pull and C-section cows right there, with not an issue. I mean, Rusty Sparks is a magician when it comes to C-sections.
So really, you hit a gold mine going there.
Yeah.
Learning a lot and things that a lot of guys probably still don't know. They've been cowboying for however most of their life. And to have hands-on experience with that kind of stuff is awesome.
Yep.
That's real cool.
So then the assist rate with the second calf heifers was still a little higher than maybe it otherwise would have been if they used heifer bulls. So I calved the second calf heifers that first year. welded a bunch. And I mean, this place was, if you didn't have nothing to do on night crew on other ranches, you would watch movies or take a nap, set an alarm, and then you'd go do your next check. And this place, you're organizing bolt bins, like organizing.
They had something for you to do all the time.
Absolutely. The barn was swept every single night, or else you didn't go to the cookhouse.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Tractors and trucks, everything was plugged in on timers. They didn't want to waste electricity, so plugged in on timers, so it started warming that oil. Like even the gas trucks at -30, -40 degrees, you plug it in a gas truck. And so everything was set up on timers, very clean. In the morning, we had checklist routines, check oil and everything that we're using that day.
But knowing you, I bet you like that.
Get fencing stuff ready, yeah. Sweep the truck out, clean the bed of the truck, whatever. You know, and if you got in late one day, it was fine. Park the gator, park the truck with everything on it. And next morning, though, in that morning routine, you're putting things where they go. You're cleaning your truck. You're checking your oil, topping off fuel, all that kind of good stuff. So,
wow, and at that time, that's when you bought the Harley.
So I worked there a whole year, and it was the next spring that I bought the Harley. So
you
I
were
was
there
a
a total
year,
of 3 years, right?
No, 2. 2 years and 2 months. I worked there for a year, and I got a good raise. They raised me to $750 a month.
You got to be kidding me.
And so
you said, let me buy a Harley.
I had some money to blow.
Yeah, you did.
So I went and I got a Harley.
But seriously, I mean, if you eat there and you can't do anything else, what are you going to spend money on?
Yeah.
Amazon?
I bought some guns while I was there. I hung out.
Yeah, what else are you going to do? So you buy the Harley. This ain't the part that I really want to bring up, but I think it's kind of cool. You hit, it's not cool, but thank you, God, for your angel protection over you, but you hit a deer going 75?
I was going 75 when I came over the hill and I saw the deer, and I probably, I hit my brakes, but I was doing over 60, I'm sure.
When you hit it?
Yeah.
And you did.
So he was in the ditch.
Did you have a helmet on?
Yeah. He was in the ditch. He come out of the ditch and hit me at my front fork, and then deflected off my helmet and my shoulder, and it just kind of pushed me into the oncoming lane, just a 2-lane highway. Pushed me into the oncoming lane, and I was leaning so hard to stay on pavement, I hit that gravel and went out.
It's a miracle.
Yeah. And I slid away.
Was the deer okay?
Slid away. He got up and ran off.
How about that?
Yeah.
Man.
And slid a ways down the road, got up and called my buddy at the ranch that had a pickup, and I said, "Hey,
come get me.
Come on over here and bring a ramp."
That's crazy.
He picked me up, and I was shooting horses the next morning. I had gloves on, and
that's
mechanics gloves with the Velcro.
Yeah.
And I was missing my right glove, but not a scratch on me. I was wearing blue jeans and a North Face soft shell jacket. I was completely fine. No road rash. No, I was sore a little, but devastated more than anything.
Oh yeah, your Harley. It was brand new too, right?
Baby. Yeah.
Oh, that sucks. So you're there 2 years.
Yep. 2 years and 2 months.
Now, let me ask you this. I know you're shooting horses, you're around horses, but had you learned, were you a horseman at this time? Were you riding their horses? What's the deal?
They sent me to a horsemanship clinic. Yeah, their horses. They sent me to a horsemanship clinic. I learned a lot at that. And then after the horsemanship clinic, I think that was in the fall right before I left, or the late summer, that summer before I left. Anyways, the summer that I wrecked the Harley, I think, is when I did the horsemanship clinic. They taught me a lot about stockmanship, like being in the right place at the right time, and to turn a cow. If you go too far and overshoot it, you're okay. They taught me a lot about that. To be gentle, to have a soft touch, to manipulate your cattle like that. So, they really stressed stockmanship. So no loud whooping and hollering, no, nothing like that. So, yeah, shoeing horses, a lot of welding, a lot of irrigation, some haying, driving tractors, feeding all winter long.
Did you love it though?
Yeah, it was cool. It was cold. I'd love to go back and visit, but
Oh, I bet it was terrible.
Not in December.
So where'd you go from there?
So I wanted more of a cowboy job. I wanted to ride. I wanted to ride break colts. And so I found a job on Ranch World Ads. It was posted. It was like 2 sentences. Cowboy job, straight riding, must rope, ride rough horses, and be able to shoe, I think is what it said. Something along those lines. And I applied for the job, went down, interviewed, met one of my best friends, Jed Hershey, still to this day, and he was a cow boss. And at the end of the interview, he offered me the job. I took it.
Where was this at?
In Wyoming, southeast Wyoming, so right outside of LaGrange, in between
Is this
LaGrange
big
and
country
Chugwater.
too?
Oh yeah,
Like when I say big country, I'm
over
talking
100,000 acres. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think all three of the ranches, the Philmont, the IX, and the Bartlett Ranch, were all over 100,000 acres each.
The Bartlett's in Wyoming.
Yep.
Okay.
So I went there.
Did you work with Jed Hershey there?
Oh yeah. So he was the cow boss.
He's the one who taught you how to drink coffee, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I was Andrew my entire life, and then I went there, and that first day he called me Andy, my first day of work, and I mean I'm just a kid, like I'm scared I'm gonna get bucked off, let this guy down. I don't know much about horses, and I should have
afraid.
I should have been scared that I was gonna get bucked off because that definitely happened, and to this day I believe I still hold the record for the employee getting bucked off the most. And I did not work there.
You wear it proud. Yeah.
So,
That's over.
I love riding bucking horses, but I'm not good at it by any stretch of the imagination. So, man, we, what was I talking?
This is where you.
So he calls me Andy, and I didn't. I was real intimidated and scared of this guy at this time, and so I was like,
You just went
yes,
with
sir,
it.
yep, you know, and from that point on, I've been Andy at work, and I've been Andrew in the rest of my life. So
Yeah. Well, Taylor calls you. I've noticed called you Andrew.
Yeah.
Your mom and dad do.
yeah, a lot of people still call me Andrew. So, and then so rode there. We trained horses, sold them, had a invitational sale every spring and every fall. I worked there from I guess about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Wow.
And it was,
And that's in the middle of nowhere too, right?
yeah. I mean, Cheyenne would be groceries and Walmart and whatnot. That was about an hour and a half.
Okay, I was gonna say. I think you remember telling me it's like 100 miles away
Yeah.
or less.
It's not. So if you're going up I-25, you'll hit Cheyenne, and then ways north of that's Chugwater, and then once you hit Chugwater, you'll go on 313 east another way. Yeah,
Out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. And it was cold there too, but in a different way. The wind just always blew.
So that's really where, like, cowboying.
Oh yeah, he taught me appreciation for like quality leather work, quality silver work, the artistry and the refinement in training, not just gear, but like training a horse. And like he told me, he had a lot of good one-liners, but he would say, to be a top hand, you have to do 3 of these 5 things. You have to be able to shoe your own horse, ride a bucking horse, finish a horse, start a colt, or rope anything. You've got to be able to do 3 of those 5, so you can pick.
Wow.
And
To be a horseman?
yeah, to be a real top hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and like he also said, man,
They didn't say that on Yellowstone.
Yeah, they didn't. They left that out. That's it. So that's just kind of what he told me, and so I would focus on, there was one time, man, videoing horses, getting horse sale videos is tough, and so we would get out there, try and rope something, right, bring it around and rope it right in front of the camera, and it was wicked tough to try and rope something right in front of the camera. So we like one day I think I missed, had the perfect shot right in front of the camera, and I missed every time. And I went home, and you could barely see my house from his house. And he picked me up the next morning and he said, "What'd you do last night?" And I said, "I roped the dummy until midnight." And I did. I mean, I sat out there and roped that dang dummy until midnight because I was so embarrassed.
I can see you
I'd
doing
let him
that.
down. And I went out there, necked that first steer, got the video. We're done.
Oh,
So
how about that?
it just, I mean, I really tried to work on, I mean, I knew I could shoe. At this point, I'm still shoeing and trimming a bunch of horses. This place, I mean, they raised horses, and the cows were just an aid to make some nice horses. We had 113 brood mares. It was a blast.
Wow.
So
Did you have colts that you were over that?
I had my own string.
Oh, you had your own.
That
string.
day
Okay.
I started, I had he gave me he lined out 15 horses.
Holy
And I would
mackerel.
I'd ride 5 in the morning, and then I'd swap and ride 5 in the afternoon.
They're all 2-year-olds.
No, they're like 5.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
really?
they were of the mind, let them grow up and be a horse a little bit, and then they'll really buck you off. And I mean, they were started as 2-year-olds, but then they let them grow up. Maybe ride them a little bit as 3-year-olds, a little bit as. But these horses, they had gotten behind, had some bad help, and so they were behind. And most of those horses I were riding were 4 and 5.
Did you have some rank ones?
Yeah, there were horses that like I knew every day I was going to get
challenge you.
Titanic.
Oh boy, sink it.
Horse named Titanic, and I mean, he would let me have it. And so I would ride 5 in the morning. I'd go home, turn those 5 out, and I'd catch another 5, ride those in the afternoon, keep them up overnight, ride those 5 the next morning, go home, turn them out, catch another 5, ride 5 in the afternoon, keep them up overnight, and I kept that routine going. I'd ride them in sets of 5. And like if I had a decent horse, one of my rides would be used to jingle that next set of horses in. So like I'd go down and I'd lope circles on the 4, or I'd, hey, today we're just going to go out and ride
And this guy taught you all this.
Yeah, like he would give me stuff to do, like, hey, go, if you want something to do, you don't have to be in the arena. Go out there, just get them across water, Andy. And so I'd go out there and I'd cross water. I'd just trot a pasture that I'd never been in before and find deer horns, find elk horns. And
putting some wet saddle blankets.
Yeah, I just rode until
But that was
I
not only
so
good for
sore.
them, but that was good for you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
I think that's what's so admiring about this story or of your life, because you never did take no for an answer, because you were like, no, I'm going to learn. Because people may not understand that, and I don't know how to put it in a term of somebody who hasn't been around any of this, but it literally, and this is how cowboys are. If you're not raised in this, they're not going to give you the time of day.
Yeah.
And,
the cost of entry is like tough.
Listen, that calculation, yes, it's going to cost you something.
Yep.
And it's going to cost pride and all of that. Of course, when you don't know, you don't know. But that's what I love about this.
And it made me soft to that then. As I kind of got into it, and later on in the story, you'll see I came into some points of authority and whatnot, and I always tried to have the eye out for that younger kid or that younger guy that just is willing to work hard and has a desire to learn.
And that's one thing that I always admire. You're a teacher. I mean, you're like, you want to know how to do it? This is the way we do it. I love that about you. So so it doesn't stop at Wyoming.
Right.
You end up back where it all began.
Yep. So let's see, this would have been the spring of 2016. I wanted to go back to Philmont and be a horse. So earlier I mentioned Rick Olson. So a guy left the Bartlett and we needed help. And so I got Rick hired there. And so me and Rick lived together at the Bartlett, cowboyed together for about a year there. And, me, Rick, and Jed it was a dynamic duo, or a trio. We had a lot of fun, rode rough horses. It was it was a blast.
In Wyoming.
Oh man, yeah. In Wyoming, that was the most. I mean, it was just a single man's dream.
Oh yeah.
Like, it was so much fun living in a bunkhouse. Just me and Rick, going to town once every 2 weeks to get groceries, and me and Rick treated it like we were a married couple. We'd just go to Walmart and whatever we needed, we put in the cart. We get to the cash register and split it down the middle.
Right down the middle.
Yeah, just whatever. If he wanted this and I needed that, and hey, let's get a space heater for my bedroom, we'd split it all right down the middle.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah. So we go from that spring. I thought that it was a single man's job. There was no room to get married there. The insurance, the lodging, the housing wasn't there for a married guy or a family. And so I knew that I wanted to go back to Philmont and be a horseman. And so I applied to Philmont to be a horseman and at Poneel, and I went back to Philmont the summer of 16 to be a horseman. And that's when I met my wife now, Taylor.
Cool.
That summer. So
and so did you hired on just to be a cowboy, right?
at Philmont?
Yeah.
No, I was a horseman. So I was up in the mountains that summer. It was a seasonal contract for that summer, and I was going to run that Poneel camp.
Okay. But you ended up staying.
So after the summer, there was a full-time position that they offered up.
That wasn't there before, right?
Right. And I applied for it, and
you
they
got
hired
it.
me full-time.
And then you ended up becoming a boss.
So, yeah. So it wasn't that position didn't come with housing or anything like that. It was a full-time job, but it didn't come with housing. And I lived in Miami just south of Philmont, and it was bitter cold that winter, and that house was only heated with a wood-burning stove.
Oh my god.
There was one Corcho
heater. You sleep in front of it?
There was one Corcho heater in the kitchen to keep the pipes from freezing, I guess, and the rest of it was a wood-burning stove, and it was cold.
Brutal cold.
Yeah. Taylor's parents came and visited that Christmas, right after Christmas, and I'm pretty sure they were like, what the heck is going on here? Like, what is this?
You're going to marry my daughter?
Taylor, are you sure? But shortly after the first of the year, beginning of 17, a house came available. They offered it to me. I lived there on the ranch, full-time cowboy job. And then Rod Taylor retired, I want to say maybe the fall of 17, sometime in 17, and I applied for that cow boss job, and I was a foreman over the cows and the buffalo at Philmont. So, but all those seasonal kids coming in, teaching them how to shoe, working with them, we all worked together really well. Chuck Inlow ran all the horses in the burros, and we'd chase horses in the mountains all winter long. So I was there for 16.
Well, that's where you married, right?
5 or 6 years, yeah.
5 or 6 years.
Yeah. Got married in 2018. So we dated for a year, engaged for a year, and got married in October of 2018. I just
love that story because, especially people really admire this, that get it. Like, you don't just become a cowboy. You have, it takes miles, right? It takes wet saddle blankets, like you talked about. It takes but just having the opportunity that these guys gave you is incredible.
Yeah.
To say, man, and you were honest and humble about the whole thing. I don't know anything, but I will learn, and just eager to do that. And I think that's what kids need. That's what we need. There's people that take advantage of what they've been grown up in, and this is something that you saw and wanted to be a part of. And so going back to, that's why I wanted people to hear this, because calling, people think that it just falls into your lap. And I really believe, in fact, there's a scripture that I was thinking about as you were talking, but it's in fact, I'm going off the cuff here. I'm not sure exactly where it is, but I'm going to have to find it. But it's in 1 Corinthians. I know that. I think it's in chapter 7. And if I get there, I think I can. Yep, I found it. Okay, but I want to read in different translation. Each of you should continue to live in whatever situation the Lord has placed you and remain as you were when God first called you. I think that's a good scripture for calling, because each of you should continue to live in whatever situation the Lord has placed you. I believe, and that's the deal. Just like me, maybe I ought to tell my story sometime about shoeing horses. I was just in the right place at the right time, and with Eddie Martis, and just gave my all, like you did with that Derby car. You know, just talking about that in every one of those situations, that doors were opened up, and it wasn't necessarily like a "Thou saith the Lord" moment, where you're going to be doing this, you're going to be doing this. Like, I find myself in ministry today. People's, I definitely, I'll be honest with you, there was a part of me when I was young, like I felt like there was a call, but I want to do my own thing. But I found myself working in children's church, and then from children's church, learning how to communicate with kids, and playing in the band, and like here at the church you serve. I mean, and I served the best I could. Like, God, I believe you put me in this position for a reason, so I'm going to give it the best that I. And then from there, I went to youth, and man, God gave me so many opportunities, and I took it serious of learning the Word and learning how to communicate and those types of things, and in my environment, how to adapt and all those different things. I would read books. I'd listen to people on getting my speech better. And then from there, I mean, I spoke at camps. I did all those different things, and like that in that river there. And then, being asked to be the associate pastor, and then from there, the senior pastor. People are like, well, it was just in your family makeup. You married the pastor's daughter. No, it wasn't. It really was. I don't think so.
Right.
I don't think when I married her that they were thinking, well, he's going to be the next pastor. What I'm getting at is, whatever it was, whatever door was opened up. I mean, like, I think about Cody. I don't think he would think in a million years he'd be in the position that he is right now. But doors have just been opened up, and he went through them.
Right.
And so, and
I think different events can play into each other, like you were saying, and build on one another. I mean, I don't know if I should contribute it to the Boy Scouts, or, I mean, definitely a portion of it to my father and to my parents, but like the desire and the passion for leadership has always been something I've pursued, and worked towards and enjoyed and just kind of thrived in. No matter where I've been, I just am attracted to that, and attracted to points of like mentorship and leadership, and I think that is something that kind of feeds into the purpose of my life, or the reason I'm put into certain situations or certain positions, and I've definitely been blessed with a number of, I mean, you're definitely one of them, mentors in my life that have really helped steer me and guide me and counsel me in a way that is upright and of the Lord, of His plan, and
divine appointments, people.
Bruce and Trina Davis have been extreme mentors for Taylor and I. Helped us start our cattle company. We raise and sell packaged beef now, and I mean,
Domino
Cattle Company, and we now have a horse boarding facility here in Canyon too, and 2 young girls. I mean, just the way that different mentors and different people have just flown into us, and I've just tried to be a sponge, and soak it all in, and try to take it, and then pray about it and consult the Lord. Taylor and I pray together, draw close to her, and what do we want to do,
As you talking about that, I'm just calibrating some things inside of my head of I mean, it is amazing where you are, but this is what I want to get at is there's some, choices that you had to make. The first one that I wanted to talk about was calling. It doesn't just fall in your lap. You're going to have to go through some doors. And when the doors open up, you have to have courage. I mean, a while ago, you were talking about there was many days that you showed up. I'm sure when you showed up the first day in Montana or even at the Philmont on first day, I love what Joyce Meyer says. She says, do it afraid. And there's, we live in a society today where that's going to make me feel uncomfortable. Listen, there's going to be uncomfortable moments. If you're going to be successful, there's going to be some uncomfortable moments. Like I remember the first time I showed up at Metallic Cat to shoe there, I was like, this is so intimidating. And I've shot thousands of horses, but this is a big deal. Like, you couldn't get a needle in my butt with a sledgehammer. I mean, just nervous, but I've learned you got to do it afraid.
Yeah.
You
This weekend,
got to pull the trigger.
This weekend I was shoeing a horse named Muscle, and you know about Muscle, but the girl's telling me how she's going to the American and whatnot. She's going to be competing here in a couple of weeks, and end of February, I think. But she said, yeah, last summer I was offered $105,000 for this horse. And
don't you love when they say that?
She was, I was thankful that I was on the last foot when she said that, because I was like, oh my gosh, hopefully I didn't mess this up, but yeah, you're right. Just a needle in your butt with a 10-pound sledgehammer is.
But it takes courage. Another thing too, because I see you, Taylor. I see y'all successful. You're good stewards with your money, time. Like I said, you're great parents. Another thing too that I believe you're going to be successful in that calling. You got to have courage, but you also have to have some competence about you. There's some things that I see. Obviously, you were raised in this. There's just good people skills that you have. You look people in the eyes. You have a good handshake. You smile. You look approachable. All those different things of that competence that just, I think of David and Goliath. He was so competent with a sling that he was like, you defy the armies of the living God. And what brings competence is confidence, but what brings confidence is repetition. And just like you going out to rope that dummy, that may have happened yesterday, but it's not going to happen today. And I think all of us, if you're going to be successful, you're going to have to take those defeats, scrape the dust off, and say, you know what, that may have happened yesterday, but it may happen even tomorrow, but by the end of the week, it's not going to happen that way. And there's been even times in my life where I've practiced something or I've gotten better at things, and I've been knocked down in the dirt, but it's like, that's not going to hold me down. Mm-hmm. And then the word that's also coming to me, I'm a preacher here. I'm thinking of calling, I'm thinking of courage, I'm thinking competence, but the last one is calculation. Is it's gonna, even the story of David and Goliath, going back to that, he counted the cost because he said, what do they get who kills it, and who kills the giant? He said, well, you get this money, you don't have to pay taxes, but also you get the king's daughter. And he's always looking ahead, like, how, if I invest here, what's the outcome on the other side? Mm-hmm. And he's thinking, and that's one thing that I admire about you and Taylor. You're always looking steps ahead.
We've said that to each other, to the public multiple times. We both really like to have a ladder to climb. If
goals, things out in front of you.
Right. And like in my profession now, it's not cowboying every day. But like that, I mean, I've got something new in front of me. I've got something. I need to complete this training course, and once I complete that, there'll be another, rung of the ladder that'll come available, and I think that's what we really look for. Is we look for God's direction. And today we've focused and kind of clinged to a lot of highlights of my life, and there's definitely been some downfalls and some low points as well that we've had to navigate and climb out of. But
one thing about it, you were never in the rocking chair.
Yeah.
what I mean by that is I think good leadership is if you're always continually in the rocking chair rocking, you ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards.
You're moving backwards. Yeah. That's exactly right. You were always, I mean, you got knocked down. You may have taken 2 steps back, but you were always moving.
A dozen.
Yeah.
A dozen steps
back, but you're always moving forward. And so I wanted all of you to hear that because, you know, I've got it in glimpses over time, but it's always inspiring to me, especially at somebody at your age. I mean, what are you, 10 years younger than me?
31.
Okay. I just, man, sometimes I get grieved at this generation of, man, have a little bit of pride or have a little bit of, come on, a little jump in you. Like, let's get up and conquer the world. Come on. Let's get some coffee.
Yeah.
And let's go make a hand. And I see you and Taylor as very successful people. I obviously, have you had your challenges? Yes, you have, just like anybody else. But, you know, you've scraped the dust off and gone after it. So I just want to end with this. He was told basically no. Like, no, that's just not how it works. And that isn't how it works of being a cowboy. But you didn't let it stop you. You knew what you wanted, and you went after it. And you got it. And it's never too late. Hey, I heard this story today. Of course, I hadn't seen you today, so you can hear this story as well. But I read it in a book, and it was about this guy, George something. But this is the point of the story. He was born in 1898. He worked hard his whole life. He worked on a farm. In fact, his parents took him out of school, so he didn't learn how to read or write. And in 1996, a guy comes and knocks on his door. And he was a guy who worked in, like, it was a place where older folks got together. It almost reminded me of here in town, like the Wesley
Center.
Like
a
community center.
Yeah, okay.
Bingo one of the things that they were going to do for these people like this, they were going to teach them how to read and write. They said that he literally was like, when does it start? And he said this afternoon. So he walked down there, and he was waiting. He goes through, he never learned how to read or write, and he was 98 years old, and he learned how to read and write. And he wrote his first and only book when he was 100 years old. Life is Good. It has sold all kinds of different. He's been on the Oprah Winfrey Show. He's been on Good Morning America, and that just inspired something in me. There's some people that may be watching this that you've been told no for a long time. Listen, if a guy can write a book at 100 years old and learn how to read and write when he's 98 years old, that's inspiring.
Yeah.
Like, don't let somebody telling you no stop you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Jump up, get after it.
I think that's, almost. I'm not afraid. If hard work's involved, I'll do it. But when it comes to like looking for that purpose or looking for direction, like if we're in need of something, I'll pray about it and pray about it and pray about it. But like you've said, it'll take you 2 years to decide what vehicle you want to buy, and we're kind of in that boat right now. We could really use a tractor, but I'm like, well, if we wait a couple more months,
you're in the valley
maybe
of decision.
The Lord will present something to us, and we can, and just keep the procrastination is, the complacency of like, well, it'll come someday. Mm-hmm. But anyways, just like you said, step out there, do it.
Faith.
Yeah.
Amen.
You can always pick yourself back up and go again.
That's right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast. Let us know. Like, comment, all those things. But, Andy, loved having you on, and I love you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
One last piece of advice. Cling close to the Lord. Cleave to your wife. Sell your TV.
Amen. When you sell that TV, you'll have a bunch of kids.
Get rid of that TV.
All right. God bless you guys.